Hello, and welcome to the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by Cazoo, with Philip Noffard and Curtis Hutchinson, bringing you all the chatter that matters across the car retailing sector, from factory to forecourt.
Hello and welcome to this weekday Motor Trade Radio episode. Today we're delighted to welcome back friend of the pod, Steve Young, Executive Chairman of ICDP, the International Automotive Retailing Consultancy. And as regular listeners will know, Steve is also the Managing Director of Auto West London, the Omoda and Jaecoo business, which opened in March 2025 and marked the UK debut of Chairman Automotive, Turkey's biggest dealer group. In the first half of this pod, we'll get Steve's take as an industry analyst on a couple of car retailing news stories making the headlines. Then, after the break, we'll get an update from him as a retailer on Auto West London's operation. So welcome back to the pod, Steve. Great to have you back on. And Philip and I can't quite believe we haven't chatted to you on the pod since January. So how's your year going?
Our year is going well, Curtis, but yes, I knew there was a gap in my life, and I go, and that's that to you for a while.
Yes, ours too.
Yes. Yeah.
You've been missed.
Definitely. But it's, I mean, as always, like you say, I mean, can't believe we're now past that halfway point, and you and I over the years, I mean, it's a crucial time of the year, isn't it, as we finish off that, the first half of the year and how positioned you are for the second half of the year. But yeah, it's been a busy year so far, and the politics and economic climate are not ceasing to continue to throw challenges at us, is it, Steve, in many ways?
No, I mean, the geopolitics are, just a complete sort of disaster at multiple levels, clearly very painful for those who are directly exposed to it. But from a business point of view, trying to plan in these circumstances is impossible. There's little point in having a strategy. It's much more about setting a direction and then being responsive to whatever's thrown at you. No one can honestly put the hand on the heart and say where interest rates will be or consumer sentiment or something in 3 months or 6 months time. Yeah, it's just total madness.
You just rather just have whatever that outlook looks like. You just have it. You'd rather it just be fixed, and then you can set your strategies and your plans around it, can't you? But at the minute, it's not been like that for some time, has it? And certainly, it's changing, as you say. Whether it's base rates, the politics, changes at number 10, redress keep presenting itself again, and everything else that's going on. And we're talking about the EVD now, so causing the challenge. But anyway, we'll get back on to what's on track. So as Curtis said, welcome back on. Can't believe it's since last time was January. But let's start off with one of the big industry headline stories that's doing the rounds, particularly this week, regarding the Volkswagen Group. Now, they're reporting saying its costs were 20% higher compared to rival businesses, and it would have cut 50,000 jobs and half of its model lineup. I mean, what's your take on this from what you've seen with these manufacturers over the years and what you're seeing now in the headlines around the Volkswagen Group?
Well, I think Volkswagen's sort of governance issues are well known in terms of the influence of the family shareholders and also then the role of the state of Lower Saxony and the worker representatives on the board and how that affects decision making. So I'm not sure that anyone actually takes on the CEO position with any expectation of lasting more than 2 or 3 years, because eventually you come up against this obstacle of a board that completely fails to recognize reality, the head firmly stuck in the sand. So, that's not new news, but Volkswagen, in addition to that, were, probably, I would guess maybe after JLR, but certainly right up there in terms of their dependency on China for profits in the pre-pandemic period. So something like 70% of their profits came from the joint venture, from selling components, from intellectual property, and so on, out of the Chinese market. And that's now substantially gone. And then their efforts to reset with, made in China for China, that seems to have gone. Their software strategy to pivot towards, distinct offers for China and the rest of the world, that appears to have gone from another report that I've seen. So it really does seem to, we talked about the geopolitics making life difficult. In Volkswagen, they've got their own internal set of problems, which seem to be creating almost, I would say, at least as much pressure. And, their cost disadvantage, again, has always been well recognized, but they also, in the past, had a price premium, something like a Golf compared to an Astra or a Focus. Then there was a price premium there, which helped to cover that up. And that is probably being eroded by the general higher level of competitiveness in the market. But the issues with governance, with the board being unwilling to actually take tough decisions, I think has been a long-standing problem. And I don't know what it takes to get them to change. I think there has to be something very dramatic happen within the Volkswagen world, and particularly the Volkswagen world in Germany, before they're going to sit up and realize that they can't just keep on saying, no, you can't cut jobs, no, you can't close plants. That is just digging an even bigger hole the whole time.
And I mean, without trying to speculate too much, I'm going to be careful, but do you envisage them, hiving off some of their brands? Do you think, we've seen, the challenges with it, particularly their EV product lineup and how that's changed in terms of that brand? Do you think that might be a bit of a shake-up within the Volkswagen Group, or again, do you think this will present challenges when it comes to that, as to being able to instigate anything like that?
Well, they've done a little bit round the fringes with, with Bugatti, for example, and sort of marine engine business, for example, was sold recently for a handsome sum of money. So they've done a little bit on that. But if you look at the car brands that we all tend to focus on more, then I think, to give credit to Volkswagen, they've done a pretty good job over the years of differentiating, the brands. Even if objectively you say actually there's not much difference between a Skoda and an Audi, so why pay the extra money? The obvious one, which has been pointed to a few times, is Seat. Where does Seat go? Does it have a place? To be honest, I'm not sure how important or how influential that would be on cutting the cost base, because it's a long time since the only product coming off the line at Martorell were Seats. You've got a variety of product coming off. You've got Seat and Cupra being made in plants outside of Spain and so on. So there's the only advantage would be that you'd save something in terms of the maintaining the brand in the market. The promotion, the advertising, the related headcount. But I think that's sort of small beer. And, the axing, half the product line, as you mentioned, yes, you can do that as well. Take out some of the, we'd be at a Volkswagen, Tego in his part exchange. I never even heard of a Tego, and no one goes to search for it. So you know, it won't surprise you to know that it's stuck around for quite a while. So there are some opportunities to cut back on the the product complexity. I think a lot of the complexity, and this goes back to my previous consulting days, is not so much in terms of model lineup, but in terms of the options and the build complexity. That when you look at something like a Golf or a BMW 3 Series or something, and then compare that with a Toyota or a Kia or a Jaecoo, then there's a massive amount of complexity, all of which has to be engineered. All of the supply chains need to be in place, and you'll build one particular combination once in the odd few thousand years. So that's probably where the opportunity is. I don't think that you need that complexity to satisfy modern customers.
And Steve, moving closer to home, last weekend on the pod, we reported that Skywell's importer, Innovation Automotive, had pulled out of the UK, with the Chinese car brand, which has 16 dealers, now looking for a new importer. Now, you wrote a blog on this last week and identified some of the pitfalls facing new entrants and the dealers who sign up with them. What do you think are some of the lessons that can be learnt from this?
Well, I think Skywell is quite a useful case because, as you said, there were only 16 dealers, and those 16 dealers were mainly sort of used car traders, putting their toe in the water, and their real exposure was relatively small. My main concern would be that the tabloid press will pick up on it and say Chinese dealer brand goes bust, without referencing the scale or anything else, and it then has a ripple effect through the whole industry. But it was fairly clear to me from the beginning that Skywell wasn't going to work in the UK, and I think there's some fairly straightforward tests that you should apply as a dealer or as a software provider or logistics partner or anyone who's going to be doing business with a new entrant brand. And that's things like how much skin in the game has the OEM got, not the distributor, but the actual OEM. So how committed are they to the market? How strong are they at home? Because you can't build a house on sand. Do they have a solid pipeline of product that's coming through to actually give you good market coverage to get your dealership full? Now are they working with credible local partners? Are they recruiting people that you might know from one of the major brands? And Skywell fails on all of those tests. And I'm reminded of the the analogy that people draw between about in a full English breakfast, with the pig and the hen, who's committed, who's involved, and you want to work with the pigs. You want to work with the ones who've got skin in the game. Not with someone who can disappear off or has never really been here in the first place. It's a big venture to bring a new brand to market. Many people will either have been to Goodwood at the weekend or seen the images of BYD's presence, and that stand apparently cost over £5 million.
Yeah.
And you also saw BYD's huge expenditure on the Euros a couple of years ago, which got significantly higher brand awareness than any of the other new entrants at the time. And that's what you're looking for before you're going to put your own money and your own time, your own management resources behind a new brand.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll be back with more from Steve after the break.
You're listening to All the Chatter That Matters on the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by Cazoo.
Steve, we couldn't have you on without sort of talking about your other job. I don't know how big a part of the share is now between your ICDP role and your job as MD of Auto West London. But the Omoda and Jaecoo business in Chiswick, which opened, as Curtis said at the start, March 2025, which I suspect seems a very, very long time ago currently. The SMMT latest registration figures for Jaecoo and Omoda showed, let's call it remarkable growth in both June and the first half of the year, as well as the JQ7. It's now the third best-selling car so far this year. It's now ahead of the Qashqai, the Golf, and the Mini. What was this all reflected in what you saw in your business, or are you seeing slightly different things of where you are and where you operate?
No, not at all. It has been quite remarkable, and there's no question, and this is no disrespect to any other brands, but we could not have done what we've done at Auto West London if we'd not been partnered with Omoda and Jaecoo. We've just been able to ride that particular dragon and push the business forward much, much more aggressively than we would have been able to do with any other brand. So that's we've got a great team here, but it's a great team that's working with a brand that's just caught the moment. And so, if I look at, you talked about June, our June numbers were up, by 2/3 in volume terms compared to last year. Last year, June, we probably had sales team of 4 or 5. We've now got 8, excluding the management, and they're all busy, from early till late. We've got a 2-month order bank. If customers are specific on colors, then that can extend to 3-4 months waiting time for cars that start at £24,000. It's just, you have never seen anything like it.
No. Like you say, order banks on that sort of price product, they're normally sat in compounds just ready to go within the same day, if not 24 hours of that day, aren't they, at that sort of level. But as you say, that's phenomenal. 2-month order bank, that sets you up extremely well as we head towards September.
Yeah, the only challenge we have is just getting the cars physically, to the dealership.
Yes.
Because, I was seeing, some of the higher level stats on the growth of Chinese car exports, from last year to this, and their expectations, and Stella Lee wanting to make BYD bigger than Toyota in Stella Lee's boss.
Yes.
In 4 or 5 years' time. And you think about that, it's 2 years to build a roll transporter, roll on, roll off, ship. And so the ramifications go, far beyond, shall I hire another salesman, or, do I need a bigger dealership? We also need a whole fleet of ships to get the cars here, and the logistics capacity in place to distribute them. So it's just an absolute breakneck pace. And because the routes are different and so on, then it's not a question of, being able to take up spare capacity from elsewhere. Having a spare train in Germany operated by Deutsche Bahn doesn't help us to get cars from China.
Yeah. As well as from your perspective, you landed right at the start of this growth, didn't you? This gave you no time to slowly start to develop and build. This is kind of, you landed, and it was, you were on your way, feet running, and it started.
No, which is good, because obviously, the implications of having a nice, slow, comfortable ramp up is that you're also burning cash. And we got through the cash burning stage fairly quickly. So, that's the advantage of the exciting ride.
Now, Steve, Omoda and Jaecoo's sister brand, or I guess it should be parent brand, Cherry, is also fast growing in the UK, outselling the likes of some of the established brands such as Citroën, Dacia, and Seat in June, and also in the year to date. So, bearing in mind how busy you are at the moment, do you have any plans to add Cherry to your portfolio? And if so, when, and what difference will it make to your volumes?
I think, yeah, you said it's a parent brand. I think maybe there's one area the Chinese could do slightly better job on is brand management, because we have we have Chery the parent and Chery the brand, and Geely the parent and Geely the brand. So
Yes.
but setting that small problem to one side and is a small problem compared to that those that some other manufacturers face. Chery has got off to a great start. We would like to represent Chery. Clearly, the secret's out that these are good brands for a retailer to have. That you can get to profitability and get a return on investment in relatively short order. The disadvantage then means that we don't have long period of time to gradually build up an Omoda Jaecoo, cluster of dealerships. Lots of locations have gone in the area of interest for us, and so you then end up looking at other brands. And I'm not going to suggest that the Chery Group has got the Midas touch, and every single brand that they bring will be a same success as OJ or Chery, but we've got to know them. It's a good working relationship. We're talking to other Chinese brands, and we're talking to some established brands, because we want to have a degree of risk management within the portfolio. So we're looking at Chery. It's already in the market. We're looking at other brands that are still coming, again from Chery Group and elsewhere. And if there's a lesson that we've learned over the last few months, it's been that you need to be ahead of the curve. You can't wait, particularly where we are in West London and the sort of surrounding areas. You can't wait and say, oh, here's an opportunity, let's go find a location. That's just it's for the birds. There are probably only 25 franchise dealers in sort of the western half of London within the M25, and a chunk of those are owned by the manufacturers, or the sites are controlled by the manufacturers, like Trust Ford, Stellantis, and you, and so on. So it's all about finding property. It's I've done an awful lot of miles on street view, and I've done an awful lot of miles by road, cruising up and down the arterial roads, trying to find suitable opportunities where we can create a dealership and then propose that to one of the manufacturers. So it's tough. Dealership sites don't grow on trees. I look back now at 2015, 2016, when I was saying dealers are facing a property time bomb. Not at the moment. There are so many opportunities. Another 2 or 3 years from now, then maybe someone will pull the pin back out again or started the clock, and it'll be running down again as there's a bit of a rationalization of networks across all of the manufacturers. But for the moment, property is king.
Yeah, I can. It's definitely is. I think it's like you say. It's open points and new entrants and switching brands, switching ownership. But so yeah, I mean, back in January when we last caught up, we had a chat about the launch of the OJ approved used car program for the brands, and how is that starting to bed in? Because obviously all the questions that seem to be towards some of these manufacturers is their used car strategy and things like this, and how is the used approved scheme for Omoda and Jaecoo starting to support your business as a retailer?
I mean, we're part of it, but it's relatively small scale, because the volumes are low. The Omoda Jaecoo's not pushed that hard into the fleet segment compared to say somebody like MG, which is good for residuals. But there are some young used cars around that we're generating from ex-demo, from employee cars, and those are going into the OJ approved program. But the reality is that our used car business either comes from Auto Trader, that we all sort of love and hate at the same time as dealers, but they do a great job, and there's lots of useful stuff that comes out from Auto Trader in terms of data and insight. And people who come into the dealership, potentially looking to buy a new car, we're telling them it's the lead time could be 2 months more, perhaps, if they want a specific one, and so we can put them into a used car instead in some cases. And I think that I continuously have the problem of my sales director selling my company car.
Yeah. Seems to be the way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the one I'm in at the moment, I've been in for 2 weeks, and then he's already sold it. So
I think it becomes a constant challenge for them to try and sell the boss's car as often as they can, from my experience back in the day.
I think you might be right. They have it in for more than just me. So, but we sell them through very quickly, very easily. But from what I gather, speaking to other dealers, not just Omoda and Jaecoo sort of dealers, then the level of trade-ins is lower now than it used to be, say, 5 years ago, because of the car buying platforms and motorways and intermediaries like that. And so we don't get a massive volume of trade-ins. What we do get is predominantly premium, which is interesting. But it's the franchise cars, it's the Omoda and Jaecoo cars, make up over half of our total used car volume at the moment. And as I say, some of that is not because it's a car from stock. It's a customer looking for a car, and then we create it by taking it off me or one of my colleagues.
And I mean, you touched on there, and we talked about it previously. Are you still, seeing that sort of premium brands continuing, and you talk about adding other brands, and what's that like at the minute in terms of those parts exchanges coming in?
It's still primarily premium, or I guess what you might call upper end volume. I still don't think we've taken a Ford in. I don't think we've taken the Renault in, but we've taken in quite a lot of Audis, quite a lot of BMWs, Hyundai, a few Volkswagens. So that seems to be where the customer base is coming from. I think at the moment, our most expensive new product is still less than 50,000, but that's got a spec which is equivalent to a 70, 80,000 pound car from one of the German premium brands. I think once you move up one step and you're getting into the into the 60s and 70s, which is where BYD's starting with Densa, and there'll be other premium brands coming from the Chinese that will be in a similar position, then that'll be an interesting question, because is that going to be pulling people in from £100,000 German product, or is it going to be going more head to head? So I think there's an interesting question when the range starts extending upwards.
And finally, Steve, a nice topical one for you. As a retailer, what impact have these back-to-back heat waves and the World Cup had on customers? Have they been unwelcome hurdles in terms of inquiry levels and buying trends? What are you seeing?
Not really. I mean, the showroom's air conditioned, offices are air conditioned, so we're in a slightly better situation than perhaps you were in the broadcast over the last 1 or 2 weeks. And so the customers still come in. I'm not saying they come in for the aircon, but it certainly doesn't seem to deter them. The World Cup, as far as I know, the only dealership in the country with a cinema. So as an inheritance from Tesla, we have a 36-seat cinema.
Okay.
And we have been putting the World Cup on in there, when obviously not at 1 o'clock in the morning. Some of these evening fixtures we've had on, and we've had customers who've been downstairs and completing a deal at 6 o'clock or 6:30 or something, and come up and joined us. So it's become sort of a little bit of an impromptu piece of added value for the customers, and come and buy their car, and when it's done, they can celebrate watching the football. So I think we had France, Spain on last night for mainly for our team, and I'm sure they'll be sat there tonight at 7 o'clock. There's always some of the team who are still around at that time.
They're not rushing to get home when there's a match on in the cinema then?
Well, it's in the cinema, it's air conditioned, and in London it could take you an hour to get a relatively short distance home. So you don't want to miss the first goal, do you?
Will you be serving ice creams there, Steve?
Not me personally, no. But we are doing a customer event next week at Chiswick Cinema, because Omoda and Jaecoo have sponsored the Odyssey. So we're taking over the local cinema for an evening as a test drive promotion, and so I might have to get the ice creams out for that one.
Definitely. Well, let's see how we get on this evening then, Steve. I mean, as always, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I mean, giving that perspective in terms of that overall market, particularly in that distribution OEM sector, and then obviously now in your role since March of last year in that sort of front end operational, feeling the pains of politics and the economy and everything else that we talked about earlier. So I mean, a huge thank you for giving up your time today. And I just want to take this opportunity just to say thank you for your continued contribution into Insight Quarterly that I'm involved with, and that's live today. So I appreciate your time and support on that as well, whilst I have that opportunity to give you a shout out on your support with that.
No, it's always a pleasure to help, and thank you to both of you for welcoming me back here. I love listening to it, usually while I'm doing a bit of DIY or getting my car fixed or something like that. My classic car, I hate it so So yeah, the motor trade bid viewers and
Sell that on you as well, Steve. Great. Don't take that into work. They might be selling that behind your back if you're not careful.
well, only because I was too busy. I've not had a chance to bring it into work, but it was my intention to bring it in and put it through the MOT. But my MOT tester has told me that he's convinced he's going to fail it. He said that he doesn't believe that a 50-year-old car can possibly pass an MOT. But
That's a challenge if I've ever heard one, Steve.
yeah, well, I'm up your neck of the wood at the weekend, sort of doing a rally up in County Durham and that sort of area. So I'll wave to you as I go past.
Maybe that's what it is.
Or you might see me at the side of the road, and you can.
I'm going to say, yeah, we'll watch the RSD or the Avon. Yeah. What is it?
1972 Datsun 240Z.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, very nice indeed.
And the colour? What?
Red.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Good.
yeah, so it's a proper car.
Yes. Yeah, I remember those all too well. But yeah, fantastic.
Well, good luck with the rallies, Steve. We wish you well. But that's all for now. So many thanks for joining us for this special Motor Trade Radio podcast. Philip and I are back with the headlines this weekend. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
Thank you for listening to the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by Cazoo.